This is Movies, a podcast about the act of cinema. With me today is Hans, who is. Are you sweating or are you just like really red because of the
I'm
lighting?
always sweating. I'm always sweating. It's red light, but I'm always a little sweaty because this light is very close to my face. So
Of course.
I. hmm
And we have one egg white. We have Eggy, first appearance on the show. How are you doing today?
Well, I tell you, I'm doing just swell, and I hope you guys are also.
We're the swellest. We have quite the
Sweat.
movie. Yes, you're sweaty. Uh, we have quite the movie to talk about tonight. Eggy, you had a terrific pick for this show, something that surprised me, a movie that I haven't thought about in quite some time. It's a movie that is frequently brought up as like a great Robin Williams performance, and it's certainly got some great cinematography to it, but it's still underrated even today. Where I mean, I'm surprised it was on HBO Max. That's how I wound up watching it. Um, Eggy, what compels you to pick 1 Hour Photo, the 2002 thriller from Mark? What's his name? Mark Romanek.
Romanek. Yeah.
Yeah, who directed like nothing else. This was one of his only three movies.
Well, basically, with me and cinema, I just sort of seem to. I'm not exactly. I would probably say I'm not a consistent cinema fanatic or anything like that. But usually, I kind of just wait. I'm kind of the same way with books. I'll sort of just wait until I get a good recommendation, and then I'll really just dive into it, eat it up. So what had happened was, I believe, it was the night that I had messaged you about that particular film. Somebody had sent in a video on my YouTube live stream that I was doing, and it was this video from some guy's channel. He was like, Robin Williams in 1 hour photo. This is my discussion of why this is what happens when a man grows old and gets no pussy. And so I
that
was like, actually, I hadn't seen the film to my remembering in any case. And so I said, oh, hey, well, I needed a movie to watch. So, this guy, he's, the way that this guy talked about it in his video essay, he wasn't like a big channel or anything like that. It was kind of just one guy's thoughts. And so I was like, oh, and he didn't even spoil the film in any capacity, which also made it a lot better for me when I viewed it. Um, but what he did say was, yeah, that sounds like I'll certainly check that out, and I did, and I was very impressed.
Yeah, this is a great I think character piece for a really creepy type of individual. Uh, I mean, I think you see this kind of type of person in everyday life pretty frequently. Like the
Oh
guy
yeah,
who maybe you come across who's not really an acquaintance. Maybe he's just like at a restaurant you frequent, or maybe he's just like a doorman or something. He's just a little too friendly, and it's like, what's really going on in your head? Now, I remember seeing this movie when I was about 12 or 11. I only had one memory from it, and it was Robin Williams at the end with the knife and saying to the girl, now put his thing in your mouth. And that's all I remembered from this movie. That was my memory of this film. So I had a pleasant surprise when I watched it today. Hans, you've been
Yeah.
quiet to this point. I want to hear what your thoughts were. What you watched this today, also, right?
I just finished about half an hour ago. I had work, so I didn't really have that much time. But yeah, I was really impressed by the way it was shot. That's one thing that I didn't remember. The framing that's used on pretty much everything works really well, and there's a lot of scenes like the nightmare scene that I was really impressed by the angles and just how intense those 10 seconds were. That it would have felt out of place in a movie like this that seems to be very rooted in reality, I guess. And then that nightmare scene completely takes you by surprise, but it's so well done that it fits, and it fits in the idea that this guy's going through some shit, and like his entire life is this job that he has, and now he's lost it, and the only thing that he cares for, he might never see it again. But yeah, I remember from the first time I saw it that his performance was good, but that also blew me away because I just remembered him as being creepy. But paying attention to the character, there's so much depth to it that even though, again, he has really nothing going on in his life other than being obsessed about this family, the way that it's portrayed by Robin Williams just added a lot of depth to the character with the way that he reacted to pretty much everyone in his life. But yeah, the thing that surprised me the most was the way it was shot. I wasn't expecting it to be such a pretty movie, especially with this theme, you know.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, this guy, obviously, he hasn't directed a whole lot of films, but he's got some like notable music videos under his belt. Like he was doing Taylor Swift music videos, which is the opposite of this movie.
He did the Johnny Cash "Hurt" one,
Oh, really?
Really?
Okay.
I believe. Yeah, yeah,
So he had a
that's one of his
big,
big ones.
big run in the aughts. It sounds like. Eggy, what is your take on Robin Williams just as a comedy figure?
Well, I've always thought he was a great comedian. I haven't watched a lot of Robin Williams films in recent years, but of course, growing up and then as I got older, then I became more familiar with some of his older stand-up and things along those lines, just beyond the blockbuster films that were a big part of my childhood. I thought that I thought he did a very good job as a comedic actor, and I know, like my parents, they're more of like what are they, Mork and Mindy or Mort and Mindy,
Oh yeah,
back.
Mork and Mindy. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a little more their era. So I just don't know if I enjoy it, but I think it probably resonates with them a little more in the same way that the films resonate with me a little more, just because it's like that's how you were introduced, and a lot of good classic performances. So I have a good opinion of Robin Williams as a comedic actor. So I mean, to be honest, yeah, the way that he really just commandeered this role in this film and really, I mean, made it a very, very believable, was quite something.
I do think that he's probably the best example of a comedian turned dramatic actor. I know Jim Carrey's tried that quite a few times, and it's kind of, it's not the same effect. I feel like Robin Williams specifically around this time was kind of done with comedy. Like I think he might have had an HBO special in the late '90s or something. I remember he was doing a very vulgar bit about, well, tonguing some gash, that kind of thing. But then he does this movie, he does Insomnia, and I think there was another film around this time, just playing a string of creeps, and he does it so well. And I think this is definitely the best one. I did watch Insomnia recently, so it coincided very well with your selection for this movie. And he's
You
good in
got
that, but he's much more subdued, I guess.
you got Death to Smoochie. It's
That's a weird one. Yeah, that's not. I don't know. That's
the
not really
same, yeah.
dramatic though. Eggy, did you ever see
Um,
Death to Smoochie?
I did around the time that it came out, which I believe I was, like in junior high watching it on someone's VHS player. And to be honest, we had kind of like picked it from Hollywood Video just based on like
Hollywood
the
Video. Wow.
external novelty factor on the VHS, rental box. And to be honest, I really do not recall much about it at all. Very little. I think we kind of, we kind of watched some of it, and then we were like playing Pokemon or something, and then like kind of like this, or whatever we
Yeah.
were doing. So I don't really remember it's too good, but I do remember it to a degree.
I think the movie that you meant, Loris, is Bicentennial Man.
Oh,
That
yeah,
one
Bicentennial,
was in
man. Yeah,
90
Flubber.
That was in
Uh,
99. Yeah.
yeah. Death to Smoochie is a weird one. I think Danny DeVito directed that, and it's just like a dark version of, I guess, Barney or any one of those like childhood icons, with Edward Norton. One of his like, I mean, he kind of got weeded out of Hollywood not long after that. He did the Hulk movie, and then that was a wrap for him. He got labeled hard to work with because he would just like take over people's films. He would just cuck the director and become the new director. Just like, oh, I'm the lead actor of this. Actually, I'm the director and I'm the writer. And you should just like go away. I'm just going to handle it from here. But this movie, 1 hour photo. I mean, I feel like something about this movie that I didn't remember from even the last time I watched it is that, and maybe it's just because we were too closer to the era, is that it offers like a nice little slice of that early 2000s culture.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you got the fashion, you got the hairstyles, you got Evangelion, some animes in there. I think the kid is playing Tekken at one point, Tekken 3 maybe.
Yeah.
That's not something you see really too often. People aren't looking to tap into the nostalgia of what is now like 20 years ago. So I think it was
See-
kind of cool in that kind of stylistic manner. Go ahead, Hans.
Yeah, The Simpsons were still funny. The episode that he's watching is it's one of the good ones. This is when the Bart die, I think it is. So it feels like a snapshot of that time, especially with the whole digital camera thing,
Oh
where
yeah,
where
yeah.
she where the lady tells him that his her husband wants him to get a digital camera. He's like, oh no, I won't have a job or something like that. That feels very of that time when those things were being introduced. And also I love that the little camera that he used had like the most amazing zoom ever, even though it was just like a tiny little digital camera.
Yeah.
That was great. But yeah, it's like a very accurate snapshot, I think, of those years, those early 2000s. And that adds a lot to it, especially because now a lot of movies try to do that, but it feels very shallow. Like it doesn't really
Oh yeah.
feel like it feels like they're just trying to grab things that people might remember, but it never feels like it's actually said in that. Like that movie that we mention all the time, complaining about the music, that Fear Street movie, where they just hammer you with music of the time to make it
Yeah, that
seem like
Fear,
it's like that. But
that was a terrible movie. Eggy, did you watch the Fear Street movies at all?
It does not sound familiar, I must say.
That's a direct to Netflix piece of shit horror movie that came out like a month ago, and it's like, oh, it's the '90s, and then they hit you with like Bop and then Nirvana within like a stretch of 3 minutes. You get hammered with like 8 different '90s songs, and it does like it's just bad. It's relying
it's
on that familiarity.
the only thing that feels because it's supposed to be set in 1996. So they hammer you with that music, but nothing about it feels
1996,
1996
and
at all.
you got a little black kid on AIM talking on AIM in 1996. Get real, please. I couldn't even afford that. Um, anyway,
That child, Barack Obama.
yeah, Eggy, I want to get a better idea of what your film taste in general is like. I mean, you said it's kind of all over the place. You know,
Yeah.
has our mutual friend Kino influenced you at all? I saw you met up with Kino. What was that in Florida? Mumkey Jones, and you guys had a YouTube All Star Bash or something.
Right. He didn't really try to like, well, except for one particular film,
Oh,
which
I wonder what
actually
movie.
I don't use Discord very much. I logged into that and I was added into a server called the Salo Special, which I'm gonna guess is that's not to be an NDA breaker. I didn't have to sign anything though, but I'm gonna guess there's gonna be some sort of viewing party in the future or something. In any case, no, other than that, he didn't really like tell me, oh man, you have to see this or have you seen this? Or it wasn't, he just kind of we were sort of just talking about a mix of stuff when we were hanging out. And when he did speak on film, it was sort of just to some general sensibilities, not anything too particular. But I guess my taste is I've always been ever since I was young, I've always had a appreciation for surrealism. And so I've watched a lot of Lynchian work in my time. And that's not to say that I don't also just enjoy some good, very run of the mill comedies or just some, stuff. Nowadays, it's just, I don't know if there's as many good films from the current crop. I kind of just sort of stopped keeping up with, sort of like how I do with video games. I kind of sort of stopped keeping up with the times and I just, revisit some of the things from the last few decades that I might not have had the time to appreciate before, and I'm kind of going back to it now. So I'm also quite into. My grandfather was a collector of country western movies from like the 50s and 60s.
Nice.
Those are the kind of film where the plot in and of itself may not be particularly intricate. It's not exactly subversive. It's pretty linear for the most part, but still there's just a charm to those sort of films from that time that I enjoy. It's just enjoyable and pleasant to watch. I guess that it's sort of they didn't have to go through to the point where we're right now where it's like if you would do something like that, nobody's even gonna give it a second look because it's just well, where's the new thing? Where's the M. Night Shyamalan flip?
Yeah.
The cowboys run down the train. All of a sudden, the train is now they're in Harry Potter world and they're flying upside down and then they're meeting up with themselves from when they're kids and now they got to go and fight it's got to have all this extra stuff going on because it just is what it is. But Yeah, I guess if that rambling made any sense, there you go.
Yeah, no,
Well,
you completely were coherent there. I mean, that's a genre that I just tapped into last year because of the lockdowns. Not having much to do, not having anything new to watch, checking out a bunch of John Ford films, things like Red River or The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. Very simple movies that serve as effective morality tales without being preachy, without being or not hitting you over the head with certain ideas. Uh,
Right.
there's absolutely a charm to them. And go ahead, Hans. I kind of interrupted you there.
yeah, it's those feels really feel like character studies for characters that you don't really go deep into. Because a lot of it is the way that they react to whatever environment there is or whatever their goal is. But we never really get to know the character that well. Maybe because the characters are like macho or like closed up and don't let anyone in because they're loners or whatever. But I feel like in those movies, a lot of it was focused on the way they were shot and the way that that world was presented. So you didn't really need the most interesting character as long as the character acted in a way that was interesting. I don't know if that makes sense. But the way that they react to their environment, I think it's something that's very underrated and something that nowadays is not used that well with recent movies because it's mostly focusing on what the hook will be instead of trying to think of a character that we might not need him to be 4D. We might not need him to go through heartbreak and happiness and everything to know who they are, and just by the way they react to things make them interesting. And when you revisit those old movies, those Clint Eastwood movies, the Steve McQueen movies, the characters are not very deep, or they don't really have that much to say even, but just the presence that they had on screen, you don't really get that anymore. There's not really those type of megastars where just by just being that character can drive a movie, and I feel like that's been lost a lot, especially recently, where those movie stars don't really exist anymore, and the movie stars are trying to push down our throat. It feels like they get younger every year and less interesting.
Well, they're utterly
More,
charmless. They are such boring
yeah.
people, and they don't really offer anything when they do perform. I mean, I think the idea of what a movie star is or used to be, where I know we're talking about Clint Eastwood's or like a Jack Nicholson type, that doesn't exist anymore. Everybody's so caught up in sucking their own dick, trying to be Daniel Day-Lewis. Oh, I'm going to disappear into the character, that they don't bring anything to the role, and they're just very boring. So I mean, I think that's a lot of the problem as well. Um, I mean, look, even comedians that branch over into film do wind up suffering a similar problem. Like we had Robin Williams before. Now what do we got? Kumail Nanjiani,
Kevin Hart.
very Kevin Hart. Yeah, Kevin Hart. Um,
Yeah.
just to get back to 1 hour photo though, there is such like a rich visual composition to this movie, and I think that's entirely because of this man's experience with music videos, which is obviously a heavy visual medium.
Well, even the way that they're lit, the different characters, like the way that Sai, that's his name, right?
Yeah, Cy
Uh, the,
Parrish.
the the way he's lit is always kind of beige, is kind of yellowy, which makes him an even creepier look to him. Not just with this kind of like this style hair that he has, but also the fact that the way that they light him on the scenes. If you pay attention to that, I'm sure it's on purpose, but you don't really notice it until you start really paying attention to it. And the way that he's lit is always in like a yellowish, beigeish, which just adds to the creepiness of the character, which a lot of that creepiness, or maybe not creepiness, because I honestly didn't really feel that the character was creepy throughout it. I think that idea of it that I had from previous from watching it previously was that he was just creepy, but he gave the character so much depth without saying that much. Just his facial expressions and the way that he was lit and reacting to everything that was happening made him really interesting. But yeah, I noticed that thing with the light that it seemed to be very on purpose. That the way that everything was lit to portray something without them having to say anything.
Just in terms of talking about, this is a somewhat surreal movie. You do jump in and out of his ideas, his fantasies, his very peculiar desire to be involved with this family. It's just like a like a weird sexually neutral man just involved, just there, just hanging out. I don't know, very peculiar stuff. You ever have any feelings like that, Hans or Eggy?
What, just wanted to
Just
belong to
just
a
being
family
part
that's
of
not
some
mine.
random family?
No, I try to get away from people. I'm the opposite. I'm the opposite. I don't want to get close to anyone instead. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I would say when I was younger, just because I know where I was at a certain point in time, it's like I live a very different experience now, having gone from basically being, a total hermit to, through a series of events, being known by people a little more, having more people to talk to and things like that I didn't have before. I could recall, although that it's more of just me continuing to remember myself or remind myself rather through the years. There was certainly a point in time where I was just there alone. I had a place that I lived by myself, and I would work night shift, and it was usually just you wouldn't see very many people typically. Just very I used to tell myself it felt like I just was walking around in like in a world where like I didn't have a connection to anything, and it felt just very it was an isolating feeling. And so I think to remember how that felt, and to for someone like Cy Seymour Parrish in the film, which surely he probably, there's no indication that there was at any point in time over these years had there ever been like a reprieve from his isolation. It seemed like it had just been
Right.
sort of very one note. And I think that's probably enough to drive somebody mad. And so I think that can't, it doesn't excuse the obsession, but it makes it easier to understand how maybe some good stories might, that's just what you heard that day. Here's a story that's kind of weighing on your mind to do, and they come back, oh yeah, maybe he took the one extra print just to, oh, that was a good time. Well, maybe another one this time. I mean, over a period of a decade of employment, I mean, at this store, and I'll also say this too, the scene where they're displaying all these photographs on the wall, is very interesting because it like really, really appears that, that there's age differences in the photos. It looks like, the children are young at certain points and then, older at certain points, and everybody, the family actually, they all have a resemblance, which, that also was like that like added to, the casting choice for me for them was quite well, and it was well done, I think. But yeah, just to sort of go beyond just like, oh, this guy's creeping on him, and then to really see beyond that. Yeah, it's I'm glad that, although I might not be the sanest man sometimes, I'm glad that at least I never went down that path, because I was buying anime figurines and wall scrolls. Had nothing ever changed. I mean, who knows what kind of place I'd be living in these
Yeah,
days.
yeah, yeah. Maybe some Evangelion action figures or something
Yeah,
like in the movie.
right.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting combination of that loneliness and then working in that profession where you're seeing people's lives. I mean, you're developing little, screenshots of their lives over the years. And yeah, I mean, it's also kind of interesting just how that doesn't really exist anymore. That's just part of the old culture, the old way of things. That unspoken trust you just had to have in whoever was developing your film to not be a total pervert or sicko or psychopath. It's such an interesting, I think, profession to give to a character and put into this type of movie. Yeah, I want to talk a little bit more about your filmmaking taste, because you would reference David Lynch. I feel like some of this feels visually inspired by some of Lynch's work anyway.
I agree.
Would you say that Lynch is like your main director that you're into at all? And also, are you into Nicholas Winding Refn at all? Because that's one of my favorites. He's kind of like he's someone deeply inspired by David Lynch. He's known for Drive. That's obviously the most famous one, but he's also done like weirder movies like Only God Forgives, Neon Demon,
Mm.
some big movies of like the past 10 years.
Well, actually, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, those movies that you just Nicholas Winding Refn, you said
Yeah,
was his name. Yeah, because I mean, will admit I wasn't familiar with him, I guess, on the on a name basis. And really probably the reason why I think about David Lynch a lot was that was one of my friends who was into film. I wouldn't have considered myself a particularly like film adept individual, or a cinema savvy individual, until I had a friend of mine who sort of was really into Lynch's works, and would speak about him a lot or whatever. And then I was like, oh hey, you know what, yeah, it's after I watched his films, I was like, yeah, damn, I really that's what I'm talking about. But I mean, I like, I definitely, Drive and Only God Forgives, and those were Neon Demon. I wonder. I feel like I had watched all of those films within the last few years. Like, once again, I'll say too that a lot of my recommendations had come from, if it wasn't somebody who I knew personally, which typically wasn't, it was usually off of like people on the internet. They're like, oh my goodness, this is absolutely Lynchian and absolutely so Kino and based. And I'm like, okay, well, all right, let me check it out. And
that's the highest recommendation a movie can get these days.
It's true. Yeah, that's pretty much, that'll be how a film is like put to me. They're like, oh my goodness, bro, it's so Kino and based. And so then I'm like, all right, well, I'll check it out. And yeah, most people that tell me that, it usually hits. I can't think of the last time that I took a recommendation on those terms that I didn't much care for. It's hard for me to remember what that might have been.
Yeah, I got recommended In the Heights by Hans because he's Hispanic, so he felt the cultural vibe there. Hated them.
No,
that was extremely disappointing. Never.
I hate that little Puerto Rican man is giving us a bad name. We're all not. Well, it's like now everyone thinks that the only hip hop that Latin American people like is like the hippity hop hippity that he does in his fucking musicals. It's fucking awful. Yeah, I hate that little man.
I mean, anytime someone sees you now, you're just probably thinking of Lin-Manuel Miranda, right? That's the result of that.
Yeah, they expect me to just talk by dancing and then just be very flamboyant. Yeah, no.
Well, Eggy, you're a musician, you're a rapper, you're very talented, by the way. Everyone should check out your work if they haven't already. I mean, what is your rap perspective on Lin-Manuel Miranda?
He doesn't really get played around the type of audiences I'm familiar with. I kind of got I got like a little bit of the nerdcore that I rock with. I would say, when I say nerdcore, I mean, I guess like they call it, like, maybe nowadays it's like incel core. I'm not sure. I think sometimes that could, like, if people are unfamiliar, but like nerdcore was like, that was like MC Chris. That's not what it is anymore. It's evolved. It's sort of evolved into like a little doomery, a little like self-reflective, whatever the case might be. Anyways, then I also rock with some of that gangsta rap from down south, from like Texas and Tennessee, and then probably to a lesser extent like Georgia and Florida. And then I have what else would be the like the Blady, Young Lean, that type of sound. So basically those are like the three kind of areas that I find myself kind of circled in that side of music. And yeah, Lin-Manuel Miranda, I think he's just like, you might see like his face in a meme, and that's probably about it.
The lip biting one.
Yeah. MC Chris is a name I have not heard in like 10 years. Oh man. Yeah, MC Chris was kind of like, I remember when like that was pretty cool at the time. He was on Adult Swim. He was palling around with
Warped Tour.
Kevin Smith or whatever. Yeah, he was like the first like big guy like that who was rapping about nerdy shit, right?
Yeah, I remember there was a girl that I was seeing in like late 2010, like around the time I got my first job. I didn't have a car yet. She drove this like broken down, like totally busted, like old Buick. It had like, I mean, like it would drive. There was like rust just like come in, like it looked like it was painting the road, and like broken fragments of garbage. I don't know. It was pretty terrible. But she had like this like audio, it had like a tape thing, and she had like one of those like tape to CD, and she would play like MC Chris like mixtapes like loud in her car. Like we're driving to like go to McDonald's or whatever, the car's like it's about to blow up, and there's like this MC Chris, all the windows are down, and it's just blaring. Like, yeah, that's the last time I could ever really remember, because that we're like listening to it regularly. I also went to a convention I lived in Minnesota for years, and I would go to this convention. Dr. Demento, he was out of the Twin Cities, and he like pioneered like a whole lot of stuff. I think he was like rocking with Weird Al Yankovic from like the beginning and all kinds of stuff. He was really a pioneer in like this sort of like weird nerdy music, whether it was rap or whatever it might have been, parody music, yeah, any of that stuff. And so, I always had a little bit of that close to home, but it wasn't really my. It would be fun to listen to now and then, but it didn't really like really have a sentimental feeling to me. It was just something for like a party to laugh at.
Right. I don't understand the mindset of people who would like go to a Weird Al concert and want to do that for 40 minutes or 2 hours or whatever the hell. Like, yeah, okay, maybe one every like 7 years, which is about how he popped off, right? He would get like one hit and then it would go mainstream. But going to a concert, listening to a full CD, that's a big task if you're me anyway.
Well, you don't want to listen to Fat in concert.
Yeah, no,
30 years ago. I also love that you asked him if his circles or people listen to Lin-Manuel Miranda, like, yeah, was going to be around fat white liberal women that pretend to have black friends. That's the only people that listen to that guy. Yeah.
well, the elites, that's really
Right.
who's paying his rent each month and all of his expenses. Um, where do we go from? Okay, David Lynch. I mean, I want to know what is it about David Lynch you like? Because I just rewatched Twin Peaks: The Return, and I remember. Well, have you seen all of the Twin Peaks series, Eggy?
I haven't watched all of it, to be honest.
My feeling on The Return at first was like, oh damn, I'm kind of disappointed with where this is going. But there's something that I think you can much easier pick up on with David Lynch, anything really, and that's like the very subtle, subdued comedy. Sometimes it's a little obvious, and it's just like a little awkward thing
Yeah.
that makes itself very noticeable, and then sometimes it's very like layered or very subdued, and that is something that I got with that especially. It's just like picking up, it's 17 hours that he wrote and directed, and it's just I found it like the most hilarious thing that I've watched in some time. Even though I had already watched it, and I had one experience this go around. Maybe it's just that comedy fucking sucks now. I don't know. That could have played a part as well. But I mean, what is it about Lynch that you enjoy?
Well, the atmospheric, bone chilling, character driven development. No, but really, I mean, it's just a combination of many things that I just personally have an enjoyment with. Whether it's the setting of the scene, the atmosphere, the soundtrack, just really a little bit of everything. To me, like I'm not sure if there's like one. It's just like it kind of he just blends so many things together that I would enjoy any of these. In a film to have like, oh, this particular atmosphere be nice, but the characters, even if they're this soundtrack or this framing or this there's just lots. There's this, yeah, like I said, the sets or the scene direction.
Is the soundtrack and like sound design of a movie something that you kind of tune into typically?
Yes, I would say, for instance, with 1 Hour Photo, there was a couple times during the film where because I was watching it with like surround sound, so there's like I can't remember which part it was. I think it was around the climax, and it's sort of like this light thing, and all of a sudden there's like a little twang of a guitar, like that's very faint, but it's noticeable, and even just like that attention to detail, that like just that little bit, it could apply, a change in the mood to me, and I think. Of course, it just depends. If you're having like a John Williams score where it's just like all big orchestral here and big orchestral here, it'll just be a nice music, but it might not have that, that little nuance that could then impact the scene. So or even at the beginning, where he's taking the photograph for work, and it's just like this, it's just like it's very intense right from the very beginning. And I think that the sound direction there, otherwise it's just like a guy. If there was no sound, you're watching it on mute. It's just like, yeah, the sound's just like, it's so the sound to me is important. Yes.
Yeah,
It's very subtle, but it works really well to portray the emotions that the character is feeling. I read that apparently Trent Reznor was the original person or that did a soundtrack for this movie, but then they ended up going with someone else. So it would be interesting to see what he did with that. I don't know if that it's possible to get that, but because he's another one that has scored films in a way that you really wouldn't expect from the music that he's made. But I feel like in this one it was subtle enough where it added a lot to the emotion of the characters without being overwhelming, like the movie that we talked about, where they just
The
throw
balls
music
on this
at you.
director to have Trent Reznor do the score and then go, "Oh no, thank you. I think we're good. I think we're gonna get this other guy who's not really known." Wow, Trent Reznor's an interesting one. If you listen to any of his like work for the David Fincher films, it seems like it's not subtle at all. It's not quite as overwhelming as like John Williams, like you would referenced Eggy, but I do feel like it absorbs the scene in a way where it maybe takes away from your attention to the acting or maybe what's happening. I can think of that certainly with The Social Network, where it feels like, all right, this whole moment is pulsating because of the music that Trent Reznor's put in here, and not necessarily because of
Right.
Andrew Garfield and Eisenberg going back and forth.
That's really true, actually. Yeah, man. I think that the sort of just with the setting of this movie, the word I almost want to use is sterility, just because of some of these scenes where like his apartment's very orderly. He's you have these scenes in the store which everything's very bright, and it's kind of there's still things in the aisles and everything, but it's just overall sort of like brightness, and it has like this clean, like I said, sort of almost like thing to it, to where if there was just some sort of like if he's driving in his car down following when he slips the photo, not with spoilers, when he slips the photo and he's following the vehicle, if all of a sudden like Trent Reznor, it would compared to just like like the kind of the tension, it would sort of I think that's, I mean, I'm not sure, who knows what Trent's had in mind, but to just think that to mentally make assumptions and presumptions about two different scenarios, I suppose maybe there was a better way to like wearing a dirty shirt to go work on the farm or whatever versus like wearing a nice shirt or something.
Right. Yeah. That's a great analogy. I think that's a great way to put it, because it works so well with this movie in creating like an unnerving environment, especially since you're spending every moment with that side character just about. Hans, I mean, were you a big ER fan as a man in your 20s in the 1990s?
No, we got
No?
we got the, what do you call them?
Would
What
you
do
get
you call them?
Chicago Hope? You got the bootleg Lifetime ER?
No, we just didn't get like full season, so we just got an episode here, an episode
What do
there,
you mean
so
you
you
didn't get
couldn't
full
really follow.
seasons? They would just what? They just play random episodes out of order?
Listen, the way that I watched Dragon Ball Z when I was a little boy, the channels here in Costa Rica would buy, let's say, a saga or two, and then you get to a point where that ends, and you come the next day and they just restart it because they
Oh
they
man,
didn't
that
know
would
if it was
piss
going to
me
be ahead
off.
or not.
I
Yeah,
remember I
so
got in on Dragon Ball Z during like right when they were in the middle of the Boo saga, right at the end, and they didn't purchase whatever the conclusion was going to be, and then they just went back to like Frieza or whatever they were doing.
yeah.
God damn, 12-year-old me was infuriated in front of that television set. So yeah, I think I understand what you're getting at with the syndication.
Yeah.
Anyway, all that to just say, the black guy at the end's from ER. That's all. That's really all I wanted to mention.
Oh, all right. Well, you also
Um,
have that Coulson from that Marvel movies,
of
right?
course, you're gonna bring that up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Big fan.
It kind of reminded me of like if Drake's character Degrassi had just like grown up like in an alternate timeline, because like Drake's so like super fresh and popping now, but I could
Yeah.
totally see like where Drake's character was in the Degrassi days, like growing up more like clean cut and like not like a total G, and
Yeah. Well, I mean, what did you guys think of the supporting performances in this movie? Because I think the family's kind of whatever personally, but you do have like a fairly good performances maybe toward the end with that mistress and then the officers or the FBI agents that are raiding. Also, what's his name from Office Space is in this? He plays a
I
dick
was
in this
about to
movie
mention
too.
him. Yeah,
Was it
the
Gary
boss.
Cole?
Um,
something like that. I don't know. He's good too. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Not that the family was bad or anything. I just didn't find them especially impressive. I guess they did what they needed to do. The kid was probably the best actor of the three of them.
yeah, he was very believable. Usually, well, I usually hate children actors because they're not good. But this one, even in the scenes where they're both together, at no point it feels like the kid is uncomfortable or it feels like he feels threatened or anything. Even though it is kind of a weird thing that he goes to see him at soccer and his parents are not there, and then
What do you
he
mean,
walks.
kind
He
of a
buys him.
weird thing? It's pretty weird.
Well, see,
He
with that
buys him.
scene, it was like,
Yeah.
you know how the scene where he's like watching the game or whatever, I half expected that there was a couple, because like they get you that one time, and then it's like other times I'm like half expecting it to be like the same shit. And it's like, oh no, wait, no, he's there. He's there. He's like really about it this time, you know. It's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah. So I guess yeah.
You also, or at least I expected him to, or someone to stop him or to misunderstand him and beat him up or something like that, and that never happens. Every time he interacts with the kid by himself, it doesn't feel threatening, but at the same time, it's weird, like you said.
Well,
Fine.
do you guys
It's-
think? I mean, he's undeniably weird, but do you guys think that he's actually a threatening presence until he gets fired from his job? Because that's what coincides with him discovering that the husband has been cheating on the wife, and then he at least works him up to get upset about that instead when he's already, in a frenzy because he just lost his job he's had forever. Like, do you think that that was going to result in that sort of violent altercation where he's forcing them to pose for the camera if he does not lose his job?
Well,
I think it's well. Go ahead.
well, the way I see it is that, the obsession is in effect, the investment emotionally is in effect, and so in this way, for him to lose his job, it's not just, it's no longer just, oh man, I got to pay the bills. Crap, what's going to happen? It's like, his whole world, which has been, built in his mind around this, is getting taken away from him. And the thing is, yeah, it's like, well, when was it ever going to end anyway? You know what I mean? Like when exactly, when would there have been a clean break? I'm not sure when, it's like when you're obsessed, it's unless by some miracle something comes along to, help you out with that. But I mean, he's a man who's older and he's kind of invested. And so I'm not sure if I could have seen, because who knows, let's say that he hadn't found out that the woman was cheating. Was he still going to go and like park outside their house? And,
Right.
like who knows how much it would have continued on. And maybe it would never have gone anywhere too egregious. But if he was still showing up to like, oh, let's go to the soccer game, I'll be there, whatever.
No,
it
you're
just still
right,
would have
yeah.
been, it still would have been weird. But yeah, I think the way it all came together was kind of the 1-2 punch for sure.
I think, well, I mean, yeah, that's actually something I didn't consider is that he was already on a certain trajectory where he was crossing boundaries that he should not have crossed. And I guess he winds up losing his job partially as a result of that. But I mean, really, it was kind of a situation where he was going to lose his job, whether he was innocent or guilty, so that the Gary Cole character could maintain his position, not receive any flack, and not wind up going down as a result of whatever issues were going on behind the scenes. So yeah, I do think he was probably on a certain track regardless where something bad was going to happen.
But he was guilty though, right? Because he did have those hundreds of photos,
Well, yeah,
like hundreds of
he's
extra
got,
copies.
like, it's wallpaper, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
He's an artist,
for years. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think another factor that really added a lot to this movie was the fact that he was the narrator. So you get the point of view of the main damaged character that is telling you things how he sees them, even though the reality is not exactly that. So it gives you a point of view that was very interesting because you just hear him justifying his actions by pretty much saying, even when he's having lunch at the food court that runs into her, right? And then he's like, "Oh, I feel like Uncle Cy already," and she goes,
He's this whole socially
like,
engineered
yeah.
situation. He's reading Deepak Chopra or whatever the fuck that dude's name.
Yeah.
That's a great scene. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, but I feel like having him be the narrator and just see the entire situation from his point of view added an extra layer to the character that maybe you wouldn't have gotten if you didn't get that. If we just saw his actions and not the justification that he's given to himself in his head, I don't think that the connection or the performance would have been as impactful as it actually is once you hear, you know, what he's telling himself to do all these things.
Right. I think you know, it's a trope in terms of screenwriting where people will condescend to you if you include a voiceover from your protagonist. But I do think it definitely works out to the benefit here with this character and understanding what his thought process is and how he is. He's sinister, but he's not. It's a different kind of sinister than what we're used to with this type of movie with a stalker, with somebody who's obsessed. There doesn't seem to be like a malevolent intent to it at first. And even by the end, it's not really that. What he thinks he's doing is what, an active retribution or and he's like reliving maybe childhood trauma that's alluded to just at the very end that might have stemmed his interest in photography. Um, yeah.
I, Also, another interesting thing was that I feel like in this type of movies, it would be very easy to just make him horny, to just make him be
Yeah.
obsessed with
Yeah.
a woman because he makes him horny. And at least at the beginning, when before he finds out about the husband thing, he's also like he's in love with the family, not just the wife. So he loves that they're happy and that they're in their pictures, they're enjoying themselves, and he wants to be a part of the family, not replace the husband, which would have been a very easy or cheap way of just making him creepy that way. But in this case, even when he runs into him at the supermarket, he's like, "Oh, you're the dad," and "Oh, your family is so beautiful," and he just compliments him, which weirds him out. But it tells you that it's not just him wanting to fuck the wife or just wanting to take his place, but instead he's just wants to be a part of a family like that seems so happy. And the thing that crushes him is that that image that he's been building for over 10 years is destroyed when he realizes that the husband doesn't actually care about the family. And that felt like a more interesting twist to me than just making him horny and creepy that way, you know.
Absolutely, I agree.
Yeah, I hate the word horny. I think it's very disgusting, personally. Uh, I think we all are on the same page here that this is a great film, that this
Mhm.
is not talked about enough, and that it's a high recommend probably from all three of us. Um,
Absolutely, yeah.
One thing I want to get into before we wrap up the show tonight is I want to talk about Eggy. You're kind of like the first bona fide movie star we had on this show thus far. You were in two of the biggest movies of last year, Eggy.
Well, at least one for sure, I guess, right?
Yeah, well, TFW no GF. I mean, that's an interesting little piece of art that I think has left a dent in the subculture.
Mhm.
And the what was it, Feels Good Man documentary about
Right.
Pepe, that was very well done. Also, even if it felt a little confused in its perspective at times. Also, I think you got a glowing edit in that one as well, which I think they could have very easily like painted you as a villain or something because of the
Oh, that's
4chan
true.
background. I
You
was
know
uh, I was surprised
the
by that.
yeah, the thing of well, I want to say my involvement, I didn't even hardly really know about the TFW no GF until like pretty much they were already they were heading into processing.
Hmm.
Um, because they, I mean, I was invited. They were going to have a premiere at South by Southwest, which then got shut down. But I was invited to that and everything like that. They say I'm kind of like, no pun intended, but they say I'm like an Easter egg almost, just because
Yeah,
there's different parts of the movie where they might talk about something and then they insert something that's relevant, but it also happens to involve me in it. And then now, back in April, I was invited out to do the commentary track or to be on the commentary track for the Blu-ray release. Um, and it was funny because it ended up not a lot of people could make it for the commentary track. So it was like me, the director, two of the guys that were in it, and then me, who's not really in it. And
yeah. You're kind of
it
a
was
weird pick
like,
for the commentary, I think, in that way.
yeah, it was pretty. I mean, I'm sure I would like to think that it turned out like a pretty good commentary track. I'm not sure. People told me that they would like let me know because it was coming out sometime recently. Um, but yeah, it was like the director and the guys were like, "Oh yeah, I remember that day." Who those and like every time that they're not like just speaking on certain circumstances like that, I'm like pretty much just doing like a live reaction on the commentary track to the film, just like talking my talk. So that was pretty fun. But yeah, the guys from Feels Good Man, you know, they're definitely they're LA born in, well, actually, no, to be honest, I'm not sure if I forget Arthur's background entirely. I think he had actually worked in New York for a while. But anyways, whatever the case might be, they were I was a little bit of a colorful character to them at some times, a little bit, but we all got along very well. They treated me very well all the time. We filmed over a period in early 2018 and then in late 2018s at different parts. And at all points, yeah, they were always very kind. And, they said that they might see me as kind of a strange character, but they said, they thought that my heart was in the right place either way. And so they didn't think that even if I might get wrapped up in some wild, crazy memes that, they think I was I'm just memeing because that's just what I do.
Yeah. Hold on. Didn't you get blamed for a shooting at one point?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Man, what was that like?
Well, basically, to make a long story short, I had been on a road trip. I had just basically I had my original YouTube account. I just deleted it because I was like, I thought I was doing something good with it. A lot of those videos are archived now, of course. But I thought I was kind of doing something good, but people were like, nah, we don't want to, people they weren't rocking my YouTube channel. So I was like, well, then I pretty much just freaked out. And I'm like, well, I'm not doing YouTube. And so I took it down. I kind of just went on a road trip to kind of clear my mind about some things. And I ended up on the West Coast and got my car, oil, we got the oil changed and everything like that, got it tuned up that it needed for heading back east, back home. And little did I know, like that day, about it was a ways, probably like a couple hours south of where I was at, there was a shooting that had happened, and I had mentioned in a roundabout way, even though I didn't have a YouTube channel and I didn't really use social media, I'd mentioned in a roundabout way that I had been kind of in the area. People on 4chan picked up on that. They gathered my archived YouTube videos and started sending out media packages and saying, oh my goodness, look at this guy, look how crazy he is, he did it.
Jesus Christ.
So they didn't fact check that at all. And I had no idea this was happening. While I was waiting for my oil to get changed, I went to go log into 4chan. And it was just all pictures of my face across, like every thread was a picture of my face. So I'm scrolling down. I'm like, well, that's kind of weird. But I'm like, oh, it's a 4chan prank or whatever. Oh, they're just, I'm the troll of the day. Haha, whatever. And then I go and I get my cars all fixed up. I leave and I start heading back east, and I stop at like the first rest stop at like an hour deep or 45 minutes, an hour deep, whatever, to use the restroom. And I have to look at my phone. And the only thing I had for social media at this time was Snapchat. I didn't use anything else. In fact, actually, my OkCupid account that I had at the time was actually getting contacted by journalists even at the time, because I didn't have anything else. All I had was Snapchat. So I have my Snapchat, and it's like all these people have added me. I'm like, well, that's kind of weird. Was this some kind of glitch? So I started accepting it. It's like, oh, it's Fox News, NBC News, ABC News. They're like, you need to send us a Snapchat immediately. The word is that you are dead on the scene. You are the shooter. We need a word from you. Please respond. Please respond. So then it was like NBC News. I was like, yeah, bro.
Damn.
I'm like, can you just like fuck off? What do you guys like believe in, like a 4chan troll?
Yeah.
I was like, I just kind of, it was so surreal. It was just like, what the hell? Like, why would you believe like a 4chan post? What the fuck? Like, are you dumb?
Imagine you're using Snapchat and you think it's going to be some sexy girl adding you. No, it's NBC News. Fox News wants to have you send some pictures. Yeah, great.
Well, the funny thing about it is that I still have my same Snapchat account. I had the same Snapchat account for like 8 or 9 years. And like whenever it came out, maybe that was like 2013, whatever it was, it doesn't matter. But I had some of the journalists like continue to have me added as a friend for like a few years after the fact. So like, they're like going out to dinner. I'm like, oh, hey, you're having a good, hey, they're having a good dinner today. Boom. I just kind of, it was an interesting experience for sure. Then, then I did some music that was considered to be like way too offensive. So they had me on the news about that. But yeah, otherwise it's been kind of humdrum otherwise, except now, and just the last week, I found out that there's a guy who is stalking me, and so that kind of stinks. And actually, watching this movie,
I was gonna say, what an apt pick.
I know, right? I kind of didn't even think about it at the time, but like as I'm watching it, it really it hit a little different. I'm not gonna lie, but yeah, that's kind of just the latest thing that's up with me. it's not really a big deal, but I might have to get a civil harassment order. This guy's kind of, he's, you know, he's trying to get a reaction out of it. You know what I mean? So it's like, I might just have to do something about it, but oh, well, it's not a big deal.
Jeez. Yeah, I thought I saw something about like you were getting flagged or something on YouTube by. Was
Yeah,
this the same guy or?
pretty much. Yeah. What happened was like, you know, I'd had kind of a wild stream the night before or whatever. I was a little off my rocker a little bit, but it was more that I was drinking and it wasn't that I was like, it wasn't anything too serious. So all of a sudden, yeah, I wake up like next morning and this guy, he's like, I'm flagging you. And I'm like, because this guy had been on my, you know, he'd been around for a while. And so like, I didn't really think anything of it, but I saw he always did a lot of like, he'd always say stuff and never mean it. Like he would try to like say, like, oh my goodness, everybody turned on CNN. This just happened, you know, crazy stuff that was so like far fetched. So I thought, oh, but no, like, he was serious this time. And yeah, he's been like, he's basically just, I mean, I don't know. He's told me who he is. He's told me everything about it. Like he wants me to like, you know, I don't know what exactly he's angling for with this, but yeah, he's just like anywhere
Be
you
part
go.
of your family. He's probably picturing himself in your family, you know?
Well, that's the thing of it is that after I found out, so I'm like, oh, you're really doing it? Well, yeah, then I just banned it from my channel. And that was like, yeah. So yeah, really, it was literally like, you know, it was so there were some parallels there, and hopefully no more parallels beyond just a crazy guy that's I'm telling to, you know, get lost. Hopefully no more parallels beyond that.
Yeah, hopefully this guy gets handled, you know. I mean I've had very micro experiences like that in the past. Like once upon a time when I was like a teenager, I got an online stalker. And it's a very creepy experience. And this person would send me messages and claim this was his backstory, and then I would later read The Shining when I was like 24. I was like, you just made all that shit up. This is just Jack Torrance. What a fucking freak. Who does that?
I know, right?
Yeah.
I killed a man with an axe, and
I broke my son's arm. I saw a man in a bear suit sucking off a guy in a hotel room. Oh, all right. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, TFW No GF. You did the commentary on that. They're doing like a niche boutique Blu-ray release. I think that looks really cool. I'm gonna have to check that out. But you had a good experience from both of these movies. I take it. It sounds like.
Yes, I did. I know. You know, I don't want to make this sound bad at all. I just know that's because there had been some controversy in some public social media spaces at a certain time of people who had said that they didn't have a fond experience in being involved with the film. And people have approached me at times anticipating that I might, you know, echo that. But frankly, I never had any problems. There was never any issues at all. I was paid for, you know, licensing my image and things for certain parts of the movie, and everything was pretty peachy keen. They always treated me pretty friendly. So that was my experience. And so, yeah, I would say that experiences with both films were good for me anyway.
I'm not entirely well versed on the Eggy lore, but just knowing what I know, I think you've had like a cool evolution from meme to creative artist, and being somebody who's kind of in this sphere of new counterculture, subcultural art that seems to have a lot of people's attention. I think has value to it. So, I mean, I think what you're doing is cool. I really enjoy the music. As a matter of fact, I got White OJ on my phone. I listen to that when I'm at the gym sometimes. Anyway, yeah. And then the involvement in these two films, I think, is really interesting and peculiar in a good way. Anyway, I think we're going to wrap up the show on that note. Hopefully, we got some people introduced to Eggy who may not have been. We have a very like normie audience, very like film Twitter audience, you know, not really. I feel like there's a Venn diagram where it's like people from like film YouTube and then the rest of the internet, I guess. So I don't know, maybe there's some overlap there in that. Yeah. But where can people find you online? I know you got your YouTube channel. You live stream a hell of a lot at night.
That's true. I mean, basically right now I'm just going to say, you know, Instagram at official egg whites. I actually did get my old one egg white account back, so I might end up changing it around, but it'll be a little easier to type in. But yeah, just due to the fact that, you know, my YouTube's getting hit by this crazy guy right now, and it's kind of hard to know. You know, Instagram is kind of my that's kind of the home base right now. Or I made a Telegram just a couple days ago in the wake of this whole thing. If anybody uses Telegram, it's t.me/eggygram, all one word.
How is that, by the way? Telegram's one of the few I'm not on. I haven't really investigated it. Kino says it's pretty good. I don't know though.
Yeah. Well, it's supposed to be pretty secure, whatever, which isn't even, I've kind of found just with everything going on right now, I don't have my own chats. I know you can have like a chat and it's supposed to be a pretty secure chat service. But right now I'm just doing channel, which is basically, it'd be like similar to tweeting with replies turned off. Basically, it's kind of just like hey, here's what's going on with me right now, just in the wake of kind of some of the maelstrom that's kind of going on with me right now. But I do hope to have my things kind of back to normal pretty soon. Like I said, I'm kind of consulting because this guy, he literally tells me, "Oh, here's where I live." Yeah, what do you want us? What do you want to do? I'm like, well, I would rather do nothing. I'd rather you just go away. But I'm consulting.
Go drink poison.
Legal.
How about that? Just go drink poison. Take a nap. Yeah. All right. So everybody check out Eggy. And yeah, I think Instagram's like the one last enjoyable platform, and they're even kind of ruining that slowly. Hansakin Dose on Instagram, right, Hans? You've been muting yourself a lot. You got an audio problem?
No, I've been farting a lot. I don't want that.
It's very polite. The one polite show where you've chosen mute for that. That's great. All right. That's been movies for this week. Eggy, thank you so much for coming on, man.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me on. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Anytime. All right. That has been movies.